let's check out what's happening on the inside because there's a lot of activity. So over the past couple of days, we've been really busy inside the house. Just have a look around. Wiring, HVAC, low voltage, water lines, sprinklers. These are all almost complete now. We're almost ready for some trades inspections. But I want to show you a couple of things that we're going to be doing in this house that are more towards convenience. For example, entering the front door of the house. What's the first thing you reach for? Light switch, right? But how many lights are attached to this light switch? How many zones of lights? How many clusters of lights are attached to the light switch? Usually you can only connect a certain amount of lights, and you'd only want to connect a certain amount of lights to one light switch. So if I wanted to control, say, 4 or 5 sets of lights in the house, I'd have to have 4 to 5 light switches side by side by side. How would that look? You'd have a nice big gang of switches. Well, another way of doing it, we use the Lutron RA2 system where a centralized keypad contains 5 small switches which control different zones, all located in one convenient spot. Now, where are all those light switches installed? Let's have a look at that. If you look inside this area, you'll see all those light switches. Instead of having those mounted right next door to where you normally would have them, these are remotely mounted. Each one of these light controls is controlled remotely from the centralized keypad, therefore eliminating the need to have these large clusters of switches all around the house. Another feature that's very popular amongst builders right now, Arlington boxes. Arlington boxes is a combination of low voltage and line voltage mounted flush with the wall so that you have this depth to work with. Just imagine a TV being installed along this wall. So you have your Cat5 cables or anything low voltage that hooks up to your TV, and you have your line voltage to give you the receptacle to plug in your TV. With a low profile bracket in place, you have very limited space to put your hand behind there and to put wires. Well, this gives you that additional inch of space so you can tuck the wires nicely behind the TV, at the same time putting the TV in place and not having anything bulge out. A very good example of the use of Arlington boxes is at the fireplace, because this gives you total access to your wires. Now, a few episodes ago, we talked about the wall carrier toilets and what kind of benefits it can bring to a house. For this application, I'm using a concealed washlet, meaning that the toilet bowl will be fitted with a bidet. And the concealed portion means that you won't see the wire or the water line which hooks up to the bidet. But just to show you that there is provisions for an electrical wire, and this tube here is built into the frame, which allows the water line to run into this area without being shown on the side or on the bottom. But we'll get further into that. That's near the end of the job. Just remember this video. This is very important. When using wall carrier toilets, you have to prepare in advance, especially when you're using a concealed bidet or a washlet. Now, another feature I like to have in my houses is wall-mounted faucets. Now, the reason why I like these style of faucets is because they're nicely mounted on the wall. They're not mounted on the counter. And this gives you a little bit more room to work with. Now, what I mean by that is typically it's 24 inches deep when it comes to countertops. And that's only because you have to allow space behind the sink to mount that faucet. If you eliminate that need for a faucet behind the sink by putting it on the wall, you can actually shift the depth of the counter towards the wall, giving you more standing space behind the countertop. 4 inches may not mean a lot in the bathroom, but when it comes to the overall area, in addition to the space you save with a wall-mounted toilet, it feels like an entirely different space. So when designing bathrooms, consider wall-mounted toilets, wall-mounted faucets with a shallower countertop depth. In preparation for the cap flashings to be put on the outside of the parapet walls, I've removed all the safety railings from the outside and I moved it to where the future railings would be installed. Now, have a look at the brackets that we had embedded into the roof. This came as a perfect chance for us to mount our temporary railings. We just simply fasten our railings right out of brackets, boom. without even having to damage the roof. We maintain a safety in the job site, and we can get an idea of how to plan for the future space of the upper roof deck. Okay, I want to introduce to you the guy who's in charge of doing all the installs in this house for the AV, security, low voltages, and the sound stuff. It's Yan Tang from Platinum AV Installs.
Hey,
Yan?
how are you? Yeah, we're based out of the valley. We do any custom home installs, home automation, lighting, shades, all your AV needs.
We'll be using him for a lot more jobs from now on. He brings the right number of guys, he cleans up after his work, and all the installs are done in a very thoughtful manner.